yeah, he's two different people. He pretends to be a nice guy, but he's not. He's an asshole. That's what he is. He pretends to be a nice guy, and oh yes, I'm just looking for the fun, I'm happy, but in other place he talk a lot of. It is what it is.
Canelo Álvarez didn't hold back, brutally calling David Benavidez a two-faced asshole who pretends to be a nice guy but talks behind the scenes.
In the way he talks, he thinks he's Superman, right? And he is very disrespect, not just with me, with everybody. And he's accomplished nothing. He's not even a champion. And he's not even in my weight class already. And it's a lot of things there doesn't make sense. And plus, at this point in my career, I can do whatever I want.
Benavidez remains convinced that Canelo's reluctance to face him reflects the threat he brings to the matchup. Still, his confidence goes beyond Canelo as he backs himself against anyone willing to step into the ring. For Benavidez, the bigger goal is continuing to prove himself against whoever comes next.
I think he's scared of me, but like I said, I know that there's no man that could face me, that could beat me in this world. Yeah. And I'm 100% confident in that. So if it's not him, whoever, I don't care. I'm gonna be beating everybody. And this is something I wanted my whole life.
Yeah.
I've really worked to be the greatest that I could possibly be, and I feel like I'm on the steps of making it.
Canelo offers a very different explanation for why the fight never happened, dismissing the idea that he avoided Benavidez. He points to his run through the division's champions and questions why Benavidez wasn't in that position when becoming undisputed was his priority. From Canelo's perspective, the circumstances have changed, and the fight no longer makes sense for him.
And then if he was a champion at that point, I fight him because my goal was being undisputed. So
looking beyond the debate over whether the fight happens, Caleb Plant sees a matchup with very little separating the two. He views Benavidez's sustained combinations and pressure as a potential route to success. While Canelo's ability to control the tempo creates a different threat for Plant, the outcome could ultimately depend on which fighter can impose his preferred style.
Yeah, who has the best game plan, who slept the best the night before, There's a lot of variables that go into winning fights. Normally not just one reason you lost or one reason you won, So
and it's not much that separates guys at that level.
So it'll be hard to say. If David could get on him with his combinations and not give him room to breathe, then that's probably a night that David gets his hand raised. If Canelo is able to slow the pace down a little bit and catch him with a big shot. David's been dropped before from an off-balance shot. He wasn't really hurt, but would you be surprised if Canelo stopped him? No. So it's hard to say, but I get asked that a lot.
Man, talk to me about your level cards, real quick.
That uncertainty is exactly where Oscar De La Hoya challenges Canelo's position, arguing that the strongest available opponents should have been impossible to ignore. He points to Benavidez's prolonged pursuit of the fight as evidence that the opportunity was there for Canelo. Canelo ultimately chose not to take that challenge.
That does not want to fight the top guys, then that's the problem. The fighters not having literally the balls to go up there and fight the toughest challenges, because maybe you might be protecting your O, maybe you're never scared, but you just don't want to face certain fighters. And I believe, and people, we've heard it over and over and over again, Benavidez calling out Canelo. Why didn't Canelo want to fight Benavidez? You have to ask that to Canelo. I have my answer.
Well, what is it? You were trying to negotiate. You were trying to make that fight, right?
We couldn't get him to the table at all. Excuse after excuse. I mean, come on. Benavidez was chasing you for so long.
That possibility is also why Roy Jones sees Benavidez as such a difficult challenge for Canelo at this stage. He points to David's relentless output, conditioning, durability, and ability to maintain pressure as qualities that could force Canelo into an uncomfortable fight. For Jones, Benavidez brings many of the problems that could make this a particularly difficult matchup for Canelo.
And any time right now is the wrong time to fight Benavidez, because he's a hungry lion who throws a lot of punches, who we haven't really seen hurt yet, who has a very good gas tank. and who's big for the weight class. Everything Canelo don't want to see, David Benavidez is that. That don't mean David Benavidez is gonna beat him, but everything Canelo don't want to see right now, David Benavidez is that.
From another perspective, Bernie argues that Canelo could still entertain the matchup, but only under conditions that significantly limit Benavidez's physical advantages. He sees a strict rehydration clause as one way Canelo could control the terms while testing how determined Benavidez really is to secure the fight.
Established and a legend and a champion and all that good stuff. But to bring him back, because it'll be the David Benavidez, he popping right now. So if I'm Canelo, I'm like, okay, make 168 and you got 10 pounds over. You can't come in no more than 178. And that's it. You want the fight so bad, you can't come in no more than 178.
Rehydration.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, you want the fight so bad. Okay. I'm going to fight you at 160. You're going to wait no more than 178.
Especially now that you're the unified champion at cruiserweight.
Yeah. I'm not fighting nowhere. Nope. That's what I'm going to do. I mean, you keep calling my name, you want it so.
Beyond the negotiating terms, Bernie the boxer still gives Canelo the edge if the matchup ever materializes. He sees areas in Benavidez's game that Canelo could exploit, although the relentless volume would make it a demanding fight. Ultimately, he trusts Canelo's experience and adaptability to find a path to victory.
You said that, he wouldn't be able to get away with some of those stuff with Canelo. Are you saying that you believe that Canelo would beat Benavidez if they meet up?
I would favor him to beat him.
Canelo.
I would favor him to beat him. It'll be tough because he threw a lot of punches and Canelo. I don't know. I mean, like I say, I seen him hanging there with Bivol, so I feel like he didn't do too bad against Bivol, and I think that man, I think he can exploit David a little bit. He can exploit him a little bit, but it'll be tough. That's why I make sure he man at 168, can't man no more than 178. But it'd be tough, but I think Canelo could find a way to win.
Even so, Jose Benavidez Sr. insists his side has moved beyond chasing Canelo after years of trying to secure the fight. He argues that the matchup is even less likely now, especially as David continues to build momentum while Canelo moves deeper into his career. Still, if Canelo wants to revisit the rivalry, Jose maintains that they are ready to settle it in the ring.
We left all those things. I don't think that fight is going to happen. Canelo does not want to face David, especially after this performance, but people still keep asking and asking and asking and asking, and it makes it look like we're asking for him. We don't want to know nothing about Canelo, but if you ask me, we're here. If Canelo wants to fight at 175, we're not going down to 168. Let's make it happen. We're here to fight the best. People, I want to do this for the people. The fans want to see David Benavidez against Canelo.
Jose Benavidez Jr. sees the balance of this rivalry shifting with every passing year. In his view, David's continued development could eventually change the appeal of the matchup altogether, especially as Canelo moves deeper into his career. That leaves Benavidez with little reason to put his own progress on hold for a fight that may never materialize.
Canelo, I feel like he's had a lot of great fights. He's a good fighter, but I feel like it's kind of on the time out. David's just younger. He's going to get more experience. He's going to get stronger and bigger. And I feel like having the people wait, whether it's he wants more money, whatever, it's not going to happen. People are going to end up not even wanting to watch the fucking fight because he's going to be too old.
I agree with that. I agree.
Shifting the focus to Canelo's future, Oscar De La Hoya suggests that his priorities have naturally changed at this stage of his career. With retirement moving closer, he sees fewer reasons for Canelo to take unnecessary risks, unless the reward matches the challenge. Even so, De La Hoya feels there is still an opportunity for Canelo to test himself against elite opposition.
I don't know. I think if you think about it, look, every fighter has its peak, and then you start to, see the exit clear. And Canelo's, Canelo is right there. He's a few fights away from retirement. So I don't blame him for taking the money and running. I don't blame him. I mean, smart guy, but I do feel that he has a few good fights left in him against.
Brian Mendoza sees no shortage of major opportunities for Benavidez, with several established names potentially within reach. The next step is finding an opponent who can genuinely push his career forward. Much will depend on whether the business side can come together for another significant matchup.
That's the thing, hopefully they can, even if they go for the interim or whatever they can do, hopefully, they can find the next best thing, or if, he's still the got that light heavyweight title, whether we get it, with Bivol or Callum Smith, it's just any of these guys, like the bigger names, so that's what we want to see at the end of the day. And, whether, regardless, for the interim or whoever it is, it's just as long as, it's a good fight, something solid, maybe we can still even actually get the Jairo Pitaya fight if we can kind of figure this whole mess out. So once all the politics of business kind of gets away from it, hopefully we can get these bigger fights lined up.
Meanwhile, Jose Benavidez Sr. remains patient as the landscape around David continues to shift. Rather than committing to one particular opponent, he wants the leading fighters around Benavidez to show the same willingness to make a major matchup happen. In his view, once that intent exists on both sides, the obstacles surrounding a fight become much easier to overcome.
We know that Bivol has a fight coming up, now we heard there's a mandatory, so I haven't heard nothing about Better Beef. That would be a great fight too, so things just change a lot, at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's about these guys, not their managers, not their trainers, not their promoters, it's about them. If Bivol wakes up and say, hey, I want David, let's go, 5 minutes, let's make that fight happen. That's what it is.
Adding to that outlook, Teddy Atlas sees Benavidez as a fighter built for the biggest challenges available. He points to the combination of skill, toughness, and mentality that has allowed David to keep expanding his options rather than waiting on one particular opportunity. For Atlas, that willingness to take risks is what could lead Benavidez toward even bigger fights.
See, I think every day of the week and twice on Sunday, I like to see Benavidez. I mean, Benavidez is an action fighter. He's a good fighter. He's a great fighter. He's a terrific fighter. He's buttoned up in all areas, mentally, technically, physically, and he's, like they all have the great heart, but he's the guy, you just kind of touched on it, that he said he's willing to come down. That's Benavidez. Have gloves, we'll try.
Turning to a potential showdown with Bivol, Sean Zittel sees a matchup where neither man would have an easy tactical path. He views Bivol as exceptionally difficult to break down, but feels Benavidez brings attributes capable of testing that control in ways few opponents can. The intrigue comes from seeing which fighter can force the other to operate outside his preferred rhythm.
Look, I understand everybody feeling the educated feet of Bivol, the sharp precision, hand speed, the ability to counter, to make you pay for mistakes, the sound, technical efficiency of Dmitry Bivol, who again, I'll say, is an all-time great light heavyweight. We talk about the great light heavyweights in the history of boxing. Dmitry Bivol has earned his spot amongst the greats. But I think Benavidez is even a little faster. Now, I understand if you think the feet of Bivol, the distance control, will nullify the hand speed advantage that Benavidez has if he can put them together. Bivol might not be there to allow him to put that together.
Tim Bradley, meanwhile, sees Bivol's effectiveness coming from how seamlessly every part of his game works together. Rather than relying on one standout weapon, Bivol consistently puts himself in positions where opponents struggle to establish their own offense. For Bradley, that level of control and ring IQ is what makes him such a complicated assignment for Benavidez.
Yeah, footwork is cold, jab is cold, very, very, simplicity, man. It's a beautiful thing. Fundamentals, beautiful thing. Distance control is a beautiful thing. He uses that high guard very well. His in and out movement, his combinations, he feast flows. Yeah, he's very difficult.
Ben Whitaker also sees plenty of intrigue in a potential Benavidez-Bivol showdown, particularly because there is already history between them. His biggest question is whether Benavidez's growing frame could complicate the path back down in weight. If those logistical issues can be resolved, Whitaker sees it as the kind of matchup that would immediately command attention.
Yeah, it's a great fight for the division. I don't know if it will happen because Benavidez looks big, man. They're talking about it might be fine for the WBC at the cruiserweight. So if he's sitting around that weight for a while, it will be hard to come down. But it's a fight that a lot of people want to see. They've sparred, they've got history, and the fighters that are not scared to fight. So it's all just politics or weight, this and that. But if it does happen, it'll be good.
Looking deeper into the matchup, Shawn Porter and Shawn Bivol as one of the few fighters equipped to truly test Benavidez. His ability to remain composed, limit unnecessary exchanges, and consistently make smart decisions gives him a difficult style to solve. For both, that tactical discipline could become crucial if the fight eventually comes together.
Bivol, I thought Bivol was Bivol.
Yeah.
Bivol beat Benavidez. I think that if sparring went as good as it went for Benavidez back then, and it's still so much to take into consideration too. There's so many things to consider.
Youth, injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, Bivol was very sharp over the weekend. Even if it was a little boring, he is still excellent. I mean, elite, not excellent. Elite. I mean, one of the best fighters in the world.
I think that's the style that it takes to beat a Benavidez or to even compete.
Sergio Mora sees the matchup leaning much more toward Benavidez. He feels David has the tools to disrupt Bivol's preferred rhythm and prevent him from comfortably controlling the action, with Benavidez also carrying the greater offensive threat. Mora would make him the clear favorite and view the fight as a natural attraction for the sport.
Bivol's the way because he's not a big puncher. He's footwork, and you need to know how to close down that distance and footwork. Benavidez has that. Speed beats the timing of Bivol with that jab. The speed's going to intercept that, and then ultimately the power. The power's going to be on Benavidez's side. Bivol's never been a puncher. He's strong, but he's not a puncher. So everything's for Benavidez. I would see him being the major favorite here, and that's a fight you could sell. That's a fight you can definitely sell on the main stage. And
Bruce Carrington is more cautious about giving either man a decisive edge, but he sees Bivol as perhaps the most demanding test available for Benavidez. He feels the ability to maintain a disciplined boxing approach deep into a fight is essential against David's sustained pressure. Carrington gives Bivol a legitimate chance of disrupting Benavidez's momentum.
I really like Benavidez in that fight. Bivol, I always said, in order to beat Benavidez, you have to have a gas tank to box him all 12 rounds. And Bivol, I think, is the only guy to be able to do that. So I think that Bivol might give him the most trouble. Will he win? Possibly. You gotta ask me that question again when the fight is closer to happening. But I think Bivol has the best shot of beating Benavidez, for sure.
Yeah.
Not everyone is convinced Benavidez can solve that puzzle. Andre Dirrell favors Bivol if the two eventually meet. He expects David's persistence to keep the contest competitive, but sees Bivol consistently staying a step ahead as the rounds develop. In Dirrell's view, Benavidez could produce a strong showing while still struggling to make the adjustments needed to turn the fight in his favor.
I was already assuming you thought that, but I don't think he can beat Bivol. I don't think there's literally nothing he can do to get the victory. I ain't saying they ain't gonna be close. What I'm saying is nothing he can do to win. I think Bivol will edge him out as far as moving. How David pursues versus how well Bivol moves and punches along with this movement will simply be too much for David. He'll be trying to figure it out. He'll be more determined as each round progresses, right? And he'll never give up, right? So that will in turn give him a great performance against Bivol, but he'll learn a lot about himself in that loss versus Bivol.
Taking that prediction further, Andre Dirrell expects Bivol's advantages to become clearer as the fight develops. He sees the early rounds requiring adjustments from both men before Bivol gradually begins dictating where and how the exchanges take place. For Dirrell, that shift could force Benavidez to take greater risks while chasing the fight, creating even more opportunities for Bivol.
The distance, he loses.
That's exactly how it'll happen. It'll be he'll be up on the scorecards as the rounds progress, go by. David may eke some rounds out, right? And that's if Bivol didn't want to move as much and show that he wasn't afraid.
Breaking down the matchup itself, Abel Sanchez sees a clear contrast in what each fighter would bring to the table. He gives Bivol the edge in overall boxing craft, while viewing Benavidez as the more physically imposing presence. For Sanchez, those opposing strengths create an intriguing tactical battle if the two eventually meet.
Our natural 75-pounders, I want to say, Bivol is a much better technically sound fighter than Benavidez. Hits a little bit harder, I think, than Benavidez, and a little stronger than Benavidez. And
for now, the tension between Canelo and Benavidez continues, but the possibility of them eventually settling it in the ring remains the biggest question. Could this fight still happen? And if it does, who would you favor? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more boxing updates and analysis.